Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 29th, 2023, and this is the special governing board meeting of the Litchfield Elementary School District Governing Board. We are going to call this meeting to order. First on the agenda is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we are going to take a moment of silent reflection. Okay, next we are going to move on to public requests to speak. We did not have any, right? Oh, sorry. Do we have a form? Did that get in time? Well, while she's bringing that up, I will read the disclaimer. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes 38-431.01H, this agenda item provides an open call to the public, allowing individuals to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board. Items not listed on the agenda may be brought to the governing board's attention under this section of the agenda. Due to the Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot discuss or take any action on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, response to public comment about matters not appearing on the agenda will be limited to individual board members who may ask staff to study the matter, respond to any criticism, or ask that the matter be put on a future agenda for further consideration and discussion at a later date. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and no more than 30 minutes will be devoted to the public comment portion of the agenda. When you approach the podium, please state your name for the record. Our speaker is going to be Mr. Mike Finnegan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Finnegan. There's no time to waste because new school years are like the mail. They just keep coming. With the beginnings of a new superintendent and assistant superintendent comes the feeling of hope and renewal, and new captains steering a new course. The larger community is counting on our school leaders to establish high standards. The school's legacy should not be measured as having existed for 106 years, but for what it stands for and delivers. You have the opportunity to establish a new school culture and a new mission statement. For example, replacing nurturing with a spirit of excellence, scholarship, discipline, and citizenship. Empower each student to achieve their greatest academic potential. Create literate citizens able to contribute to our democratic society. Education majors have declined 50% since 1970. Creating a pipeline for new school teachers and instructional aides will require innovative ideas. Problems cannot be solved with the same level of thinking with which they were created. Those on the school board who talk about tolerance, equity, and diversity have no tolerance when it comes to respecting diversity of ideology. So perhaps now, with additional changes in school board leaders, the feeling of hope and renewal will make today's past difficulties seem like a distant memory. I'm excited about the new leadership and cannot wait to see a different level of thinking, solving persistent problems. Good luck this school year and the many school years to follow. These children and our country's future are in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Next up, we will be moving on to the consent agenda. Going forward, we're going to make a change here in that if you have any questions or comments even if it's not necessarily to decide your vote, we're going to pull the item off and we're going to vote on it as an individual item, just so that we are consistent with what we do. So I'll go through everybody and see if anybody has something that they would like to pull off. Ms. Clymer,
No, I don't.
Mr. Owens,
Yes, 5.1, please. Item 5.1.
Mr. Honak, okay. Ms. Moran, did you have anything that you wanted to pull off?
No, I do not.
Okay, I don't have anything to pull off. So if somebody would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 5.1.
I move to approve the consent agenda minus item 5.1.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Mr. Honak,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Now we will discuss 5.1 since Mr. Owens asked about that first. If you wanted to talk about that.
Perfect. Thank you. I have no objections to the item. I just wanted to first apologize for not attending. Most people know, obviously the staff, but I had a death in the family, so I was attending a funeral. So I was unable to attend. I understand its value and its importance. Reading the notes, I think a lot of things were said and done that are right in line with what I was thinking. And I'm grateful for the board members' participation. One thing that I did want to emphasize, and I think it's presented here, is still being new. I'm learning a lot. I've done a lot of, as many tour campuses as I can. But one of the things I want to see, and prefacing this with, I know that each school has kind of its own culture, and I think that's important, right? Principals set tones. They do things that, maybe other schools don't do to some extent. But one thing I thought was kind of weird was the continuity amongst campuses seemed to be kind of off. And so, a child, if for some reason they were to leave one school to go to another school, there seemed like there was kind of glaring differences. And I don't know if that should be that way. But for the most part, I just think that it should be kind of a seamless change if that happens, or just most schools should be kind of very similar in the way they operate, with that culture being manifested through the principal. But for most part, I just wanted to apologize for not attending and thanking the board members for doing this.
I think you have a good point, Mr. Owens, and I do think we can definitely talk about that more too when we get to the goals about the consistency part and how we can incorporate that. Mr. Honak, you had also asked to pull this off the agenda.
Yes, I would like to have this voted on at the next meeting, because at the August 18th meeting, the minutes are very misleading and incorrect. Dr. Steve Joel asked me a question about one of the main topics of it was why people are leaving and all that stuff. And he asked me why. And I said, well, we're not talking about a recruiting thing or a personnel thing. We're talking a little bit about what Mr. Finnegan was saying, is that we have a bad reputation and that we need a new paradigm. We need to create a new paradigm that attracts parents. We're losing families and kids, and we're losing teachers. We're losing all kinds of people are leaving LESD, and because it does not have a viable product. And by even a government agency, you have a product. You provide a service, you either do it efficiently or you don't. And if you don't, then citizens and legislators want to go change it. LESD can't operate with the same old because it's not doing well. 2/3 of its graduates don't do math. a lot of things that have been done around here in the name of tradition don't work. And what happened is I thought things got a little better after I sued, am currently litigating against LESD for cutting me off. And when I legitimately had a right to speak. And I'm not trying the court here, but when it got especially egregious on January 11th, I think of this year, and got caught with this ruse of making me raise hands and all this stuff. All of a sudden, there was a big change. And to board president Zinema's credit, she immediately stepped in and opened communication and contacted me, and everything has been fine. And I really thought there was a change for the better here until August 18th, when all of a sudden it was deja vu all over again, which, some sports guy said. And I was in utter stunned shock because I really had some good ideas about a new paradigm that could be done here. But you can never solve a problem until you recognize the problem. And LESD and the governing board, most of the governing board is utterly delusional, because the minute you bring up the truth about what is wrong with this district, which has such incredible unlimited potential, great teachers, great parents, great family, but it has a board that's just plain, generally, many members of the board just plain aren't even honest, and they do their own agenda for their own egos and power, contrary to what the public wishes and what.
Personal attacks will not be tolerated during our meetings.
You know what? I'm talking facts, and this is what I'm talking about.
Personal attacks would and should not be tolerated during our meetings.
I'm not making a personal attack. It's factual. You guys passed an equity statement and admitted that you never got any input.
The
from
equity
board.
statement is not on the agenda. We will not be discussing the equity statement tonight.
I am responding to someone that just interrupted me. And this is exactly what.
Yes, because you made a personal attack and said that members of this board are not honest. And that is a personal attack, and I will not stand for that from anyone on this board, including yourself, Mr. Honak.
Stop. We're going to stop this conversation right now.
We have a governing board, and then anybody can interrupt me, but not anyone else. Thank you very much. I will go home and file another thing. Thank you. You guys prove it over and over and over. And that's why this school district sucks. And Carter, you're a great guy, but you know what? You got a dishonest board here, and good luck to you.
We're going to take a 2-minute recess. Thank you.
Shame on you guys with the minutes. I was legitimately talking about what was going on, and all of a sudden it makes it sound like I'm the bad guy. Amen. Thank you, sir. Oh, I lied. I took everything. Brian, did I leave anything there? Thank you. Anything on my body?
Okay, Ms. Moran, are you still there?
I am here.
Awesome. Are we all ready to get started?
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve item 5.1, the consent agenda, special governing board meeting study session minutes as presented.
I will second.
Okay, having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
I'm going to abstain since I was not present for the meeting.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. The motion passes. Next up, we are going to move on to our action items. The first item is going to be 6.1 Superintendent Performance Objectives. This is going to be presented by Dr. Davidson.
All right. Good evening, President Item and members of the board, community and staff. Tonight, I have the privilege to just give a little bit of a summary in regards to the work that was done just a few weeks ago in regards to my performance objectives as we move into this school year. So certainly wanted to let our public know, and for those that haven't taken a look, the performance objectives, there is a document there for all to see listing 4 different areas that the board expects me to succeed in. And I wanted just to highlight number 1, that these items as found for all to see were built in collaboration. So I know Mr. Owens, you weren't able to be there, but truly thank you to our board members that were able to provide insight, share the Litchfield story with me, and also just kind of keep the community in mind as we formulated these performance objectives. Also wanted to let our Litchfield family know that we were doing this work with the membership of our team in mind. And when I say team, many of the members here beside me, knowing that we in Litchfield as a cabinet team are very new. Greatest tenure is someone in their 2nd year. So for me, these performance objectives highlight that there's some work to be done, but also that we recognize we aren't fixing and changing everything overnight. We're building some of that Litchfield culture and really making decisions based on, as the guest speaker said earlier, excellence, and even to use Mr. Honak's term, some paradigm shifts, but it's going to take us a little bit to get there. So I appreciate the board for keeping that in mind. Also, these performance objectives tie nicely into the superintendent's evaluation. We recognize that over this first year, my performance review does look different than it will look in following years. And so I think these performance objectives tie nicely into that. Certainly wanted to highlight there's 4 main areas, and again, everybody can see those that we're focusing in on: student achievement, the operations of our district, which, as you remember, is a very new focus for us on behalf of our new organizational chart; communications, to use a term that we've used a lot, but being a lot more transparent and finding those consistent avenues for communicating both internally and externally. And then, of course, some big work in front of us this spring, the development of our strategic plan. What I wanted to highlight for members of the board and for those out listening to this presentation tonight, the performance objectives look rather broad, and I can understand how someone might say, hey, wait a second. We've been talking about, and we've even done a presentation on a scorecard and having very specific goals with measurements and timelines. I wanted our team to know that there is a timeline inside these performance objectives. Once that timeline is met, I will then use those SMART goals that are being established across our campuses and in our district departments to come back to the board and have those serve as regular indicators of success towards our district initiatives. I didn't want anybody out there to think that we haven't been planning with that in mind or haven't been thinking, but this is just our first step. And for me, it's building the foundation of where we need to go alongside our governing board. So just wanted to highlight that, and certainly I'll stand here for any questions, but of course, I did want to put in there that I am asking for a recommendation of approval of those performance objectives as listed. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually going to let us start with Mr. Owens since he was not able to participate with us, but I do know that this is very important to him and he would not have missed it if he could have anyway gotten around it. So if you have anything you want to share or the consistency stuff, we can talk about how we integrate that in for sure.
Yeah, I don't have any specific questions other than kind of what I talked about earlier. And that's obviously we knew, and I knew that you coming in as a new superintendent is going to take some time for you to get your feet wet. You know, I didn't want any new superintendent to come in like a wrecking ball and just, you know, this is how I did it here, and so I'm going to blow it up and we're going to put it the way I built it. But to keep the culture that's here, the history, but also make sure we're advancing the way we need to, and resting on our laurels and our reputation of a past, or, you know, if there's a weak school or a school that's lacking, to get it to where those other schools that are excelling. And so that's where I talk about the continuity of our classrooms and our campuses, in that, you know, yeah, each school has different demographics, or there's reasons why sometimes scores are lower at another school, but, you know, not working in silos, not operating, just the communication, which I think were spelled out very well in the objectives and in the review. And I don't think it's me that thinks that. I think it's an overall theme. And so I'm preaching to the choir, I think, on what needs to be done. And so I'm looking forward to a good a first year for you to find out, to you know, turn over stones and ask the questions. And that's the thing that we talk about, you know, asking a question and getting a response of, well, that's just the way we do it. That's not acceptable. Why do you do it that way? And what other ways were presented or discussed when agreeing to why you do it this way? And so I'm just excited to be, you know, I got a little bit of the last administration, and so I'm kind of almost starting brand new here too with you, hoping to see some real progress.
Thank you. And President Zainama, Mr. Owens, just to highlight your not concerns, but your desire to see that consistency across all campuses. That's part of the work that our team is doing, as we really do ask the questions, look at the data that connects to those different areas, and really trying to ensure that no matter what school our students attend, they will have access to those opportunities and that ability to achieve. So we're right alongside with you.
Ms. Clymer, did you have questions or comments?
No questions, but a comment a little bit for Ryan, just because he wasn't there, but also to sort of reiterate what we discussed before and what you just mentioned in terms of these right now today are probably not as specific as they're going to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, right? We're going to, the deeper we get into the school year, the more you're going to peel back some of the layers and really know what's going on. It's hard for you in month 2 at this point to really understand fully everything that's going on. So, but I do want to say that I appreciate the timelines, right? There's some things that are going to come to us in October, some things are coming in December, you know, some plans that are going to start to take shape here just in the first part of the semester, so that as we go into the spring, as we go into our strategic planning process, that we are going to have some of those plans already laid out for us. It may not be today, but in just a couple of months, your team is going to do that work. So I appreciate you digging in and doing that. And I think it is important that we start to do that work a little bit over time, rather than just waiting until the end of the school year and seeing everything that you've learned over the year. Right. To, you know, to be able to see that, you know, every couple of months is encouraging, that we're going to start to see some immediate progress before the end of the year and not, you know, have to wait until next school year.
Right. Thank you. President Zainama, Ms. Clymer, just can't help but to add, thank you, but I use that term foundation, and I'm guaranteeing that this work will be instrumental in driving our strategic plan. So I think that'll be awesome for the spring.
Ms. Moran?
I don't have any questions. I was obviously involved in the process of, you know, building these objectives, and I think they're right in line with what we've been asking for as a board. I think it's only fair to allow Dr. Davidson additional time, him and his team, to determine what are the specific things and the specific action steps that need to go behind these objectives. So I also look forward to the reports and plans that we'll be getting later this year, and where that's going to take us for the rest of the year and in the future. So I'm excited.
Thank you.
Same thing. I think that these are a great start for our year, for you to have a real focus on what you're going to do. And it kind of directs this district of what we really are important to us right when we start. And I see this more of kind of a living document, in that as you find out new things and you decide new plans, then we can add the action steps to those plans moving forward. So I think this was a great plan. It was a good day of work, I feel, for all of us when we had the retreat and we came up with these goals. It was really important to all of us that we were thinking about big picture, what's important to the community, what's important, and overall, main thing, what's best interest for our students. So I am excited to see these come to fruition and what comes next from as you move forward working through these. But I don't have any questions.
Thank you, President Zaima.
If we don't have anything else, if someone wants to make a motion.
I move to approve the superintendent performance objectives as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I am also a yay. Motion passes. Yay, we have goals for the year. This is exciting.
Thank you.
And next, we're going to move on to our next item, which is the approval of the Centegix Order Acknowledgement Year option. This is going to be presented by our Director of Safety and Security. This says Dr. Doozy, but it's actually Mr. Benales.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board, superintendent, deputy superintendent, our members of the cabinet, and members of the public as well. I'm going to cover our crisis alert system, which is called Centegix. And this is a lanyard badge system that's going to provide enhanced communication across the district when we have staff emergencies and lockdowns. I'm just going to kind of go through the slide real briefly here. It kind of goes over the system, kind of explains it. When we look at, as you see from the slide, prevention, preparation, and response, Centegix is going to be an awesome tool and resource to our staff across the district and for each school. It's going to reduce our response times, about location of accuracy by pushing these to badge systems. It will show room level accuracy. There's a strobe lights that are going to be installed throughout the campuses. It is a radio technology that is not dependent on Wi-Fi or cellular signals. So once it's activated, it will show whoever pushed that button, their location on a map to staff members and administration so they can get proper responses and the proper resources. What's nice about this, it's very easy to use. And the interoperability is if a staff member is wearing this, it doesn't matter which campus they're on or where they are located throughout the district. This system will be installed through not only our campuses, but also our support services buildings as well. So if you're on one campus and you're wearing a lanyard, there's some staff members that are pretty transient throughout the day that are going to different campuses. It's going to work no matter which campus they're on. If they do push this staff alert, it will notify administration on that campus, and or if they have to escalate to an incident where they have to go to a lockdown, it will also initiate a lockdown. It's not dependent on which campus you're on. It's going to work across the campus. There's two types of staff alerts or two types of alerts with this badge. One's a staff alert, and this is kind of like your normal everyday staff alerts, your disturbances, maybe a fight on campus, or just any type of staff alert where a staff member needs some extra resources or assistance, and it doesn't amount to an emergency with law enforcement or having to go into a lockdown. And these are probably 90% of the incidents that are gonna, the badge is gonna be used for across the district is for these normal day-to-day staff alerts where they don't have to get on the radio, they don't have to get on the telephones, they can just hit the button the amount of times needed and request assistance to that location. The second type of alert is gonna be the campus alert for lockdowns. And this is obviously gonna be for a serious incident where staff would push the button and activate the system and initiate a lockdown. What's awesome about this system is that where we've had some gaps as far as communication, this will fill a lot of the gaps by putting visual strobes throughout the campus, where no matter where you're at, you will see these strobes. And there is also a network takeover, where if you're on a network computer, it will do a network takeover advising of a lockdown, in addition to coming through the school PA systems announcing lockdown notifications. So there's multiple different ways of notifying staff and students of the emergency. In addition, we can work with our law enforcement partners to ensure that we can get notification to our law enforcement partners as well. And that would be working with Centegix and our local law enforcement partners to ensure that we can get that capability on the system as well. Here's just an example of some of the things. Obviously, I kind of mentioned them already: medical emergencies, school violence, kids who leave campus without authorization or permission. And speaking with some other districts that have employed this technology, these are things that they deal with on a regular basis, where this technology is in handy numerous times. In speaking with a large school district in the state of Nevada, they gave me a couple incidents where it saved the life of a couple staff members by doing this. One was a medical emergency and one was where it was a teacher that was being attacked after school hours. So very valuable resource to have, especially if you can't jump on a phone or you have a radio in your possession to call for help. I discussed the room level location accuracy, the beacons. Once you push the button of the lanyard on that you're going to be wearing, the staff member is going to be wearing, it will give the location of the nearest beacon. These beacons will be deployed or installed throughout the campus. So it will show your location in relation to the nearest beacon, which gives you that room level accuracy, which you see on the slide right there. And that'll help response for not only law enforcement, but also your other administrators and staff who are coming to assist. Obviously, we talked about lockdowns. If you have a critical incident such as an active shooter, it initiates lockdown right away and time is of the essence. Usually they say these incidents are over within the first 3 minutes of an incident. And if we can get kids and staff to lock down within that 3 minutes, way prior to 3 minutes, it's going to save lives. Talked about the room level accuracy already. This is kind of like what it will look like if it do a network takeover. It will show this on the computers across the district, the network computers of that campus that initiated the lockdown, and it will say locks, lights, out of sight, and it'll give those instructions to go. This is also valuable for those maybe if we have any staff or students that may be hearing impaired as well, that if they're working in the classroom, that they can see this come up. If they may not hear an audible alert, they can see these messages come back on their computers. If you see there, this kind of a progression where it shows how the system works. It starts with the badge, to the beacons, to the PA system, the network takeovers, to the lockdowns, and then to our first responders. This is just an excerpt from a after action report of the Uvalde incident. And it talks about some of the breakdowns in communication and the failures with the Wi-Fi and cellular that led to some of the miscommunication and inability for staff and students to lock down. Another part of this system is the data and the analytic gathering. In this system, we can track lockdown drills, lockdown exercises. Anytime the system is activated, whether it be through a staff alert or through an actual lockdown, this is information and data that will be gathered throughout the year on each campus. And at the end of the year, this information can be analyzed and looked at what issues are we having across the district, and we can better deploy those resources across the district where needed by using the data contained in this. Some of the, there's just a picture of with the beacons and the badge itself. Another thing with it is, we have a visitor management component that's going to come with it. And that's going to be a kiosk type system that's going to be at each front office of the school, where they can come in, kids will show or parents will show their IDs, and we can do a check, a records check of the parent or guest coming in. And they can do, they can print out visitor badges, visitor passes, and they'll have their photos on it as well. What's great about this is we can, if there's any threats that will come by way of sex registrants or maybe parents that have custody orders against them where they are not allowed to pick up their students, they will notify staff right away. Another thing with that as well is to be able to track and manage the guest list and our visitors that come to our campus. Instead of having the paper and pencil method of doing things, it's very hard to recall records, especially if we're trying to identify a visitor who may have visited the campus maybe 6 months ago, a year ago. By having the computer, we can actually go and then do search of the data and find when those visitors were on campus. Another great aspect of that component of visitor management is the reunification aspect of it. These kiosks can also be moved to, let's say we move to a reunification site after we've had an evacuation. We can use this technology to check kids in and out of the reunification center and out to parents, and also tracking the data throughout that reunification process. Another aspect of this is the safety, I believe it's called the safety blueprint, and it will show items on your campus such as AEDs, fire extinguishers, you can map out on the mapping system of the Centegix as well. If you need to show where all these things are on campus, you can also insert those on the maps to show where these critical emergency supplies are, emergency systems are. And with that, that's kind of just a summary. Is there any questions that you have on Centegix crisis notification?
Ms. Clymer?
I don't have any questions. I mean, I think it's, it's terrible that we need something like this, but I'm glad something like this exists. And even just yesterday, right? I mean, things are happening all the time. So thank you for the research and all of this. I know it's a lot of money, right? It's not inexpensive, but I think this has so many components. I think that covers a lot of items that we've had on the list for a while. And at least with this large sum, it incorporates, many of those things underneath it, which is good. I did have one quick question, and not to get into specifics, but just in terms of communication, if there is a severe incident, meaning like a lockdown on a campus, does it automatically alert our district office? Right. I mean, I can't imagine, there's some kind of terrible situation going on. The principal's like, his or her first thought is not, let me call, Dr. Davidson and figure out what's going on. Is there a way to have different alerts that go to different places just to help that communication piece happen faster?
Yeah, speaking with I believe we do have the ability to set up administrative rights for each school.
Mhm.
And by doing so, not only do we include the leadership of that specific campus,
Sure.
we can also include the leadership from the district office. So those notifications can go out.
Yeah, just to help make that
Yes.
transition faster if anything were to happen.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Owens?
No questions, thanks.
Ms. Moran?
Yes, my primary question is about the source of funds for this proposal. So this probably needs to go to CFO Vaughn, but basically this is going to be $230,000 per year for the 3 year, over the 3 years. So almost $700,000 altogether. So I just want to make sure that we're thoughtful. I do see the value in this. I don't really see how we could not approve this, but I just want to make it completely transparent in that every decision that we make to spend money is a trade-off on money we can't spend somewhere else because we have limited funds. So my question really is, what do we expect the source of this funding to be to pay for this system?
Thank you for the question. I'm anticipating using unrestricted capital outlay funds for this purchase. The reason for that is, as you stated, it's a ongoing cost, and it's usually best to match ongoing costs with ongoing revenue streams. And unrestricted capital outlay is our recurring revenue stream for capital costs, which include software like this platform. We're looking at the platform and seeing a lot of the same things that have been shared tonight by both Sergio and the governing board, as far as prioritization. And the team really felt it was important to bring these sorts of capabilities into Litchfield schools. But I certainly did lead the team through some prioritization discussions, specifically around what you're stating, Board Member Moran. Thank you.
Okay. And I know in the bond that we have approved to go out to the voters, there are some funds in there for safety improvements. If that bond is successful and passes, are we able to then fund this system from the bond, or do you still think it would be better to fund it from the capital outlay? So that's, like you're saying, a recurring source of capital funding.
Yeah, so when we worked as a team to develop what that $7 million for safety initiatives looked like in the proposed bond program, I had included some costs related to Centegix in that program, specifically though, to your point, the one-time startup costs. because I really did want to honor that concept of matching ongoing costs with ongoing revenues and one-time costs with one-time resources such as the bond. And so if you recall back to the presentations we gave on what would be potentially included in the bond when it came to safety, they really were large, one-time expense type items.
Okay, great. That makes perfect sense to me. Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness of you and the entire cabinet when it comes to doing the prioritizations and then making these recommendations. So I appreciate that.
I don't have any questions. We had a meeting with you recently where you shared some safety stuff with us, and I think this is a great system. It covers so many things that we need anyways. So while it's a large expense and we have to take that in mind and we have to be thinking about what's in the best interest of our students with those dollars that we get from the community, but safety is the most important thing. If our students are not safe, they will not be able to learn. So we have to do the right thing by them and invest money in making sure that we can keep them safe. So I appreciate you finding a system that can cover so many things for our kids. If nobody else has any questions.
I move to approve the Incentigics order. That doesn't make sense to me. Order acknowledgement as presented. That feels like that's not right English, but
It's
let's
fine.
go with
I'll
it.
second this.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also yay. Motion passes. And thank you, Director Benales, for getting this in place before you leave us. We are going to be sad to not have you with us, but we do wish you well in your new ventures that you're
Thank
going
you
on.
very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
With that, we are ready for Mr. Owens' motion.
To adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I am a yay. Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.